Welcome to Working and Wandering.
I'm Chris, I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Martha, and we're also Venturesome Couple.
All right, and we're back on the Alaska series after a couple week hiatus.
Yes.
So you're going to tell them what sucked about this episode?
We've already recorded it, but guess what? We had no audio.
That is hard when you do a podcast without audio.
It is. So we do apologize, and we had a week off in between.
Yeah, we had to go from Indiana to Texas back to Indiana in a 1 week period. We had nothing but drive.
Yes, and if you're wondering what we did, we had solar installed on our brand new travel trailer.
And that'll come up later. But today we are talking about planning activities in Alaska. And if you're going to Alaska in 2025, it might already be too late.
It might.
Yeah,
Yikes.
You're going to hear a lot about that because some of these dates are shocking at how far out in advance you actually have to plan. Kind of crazy, but we're going to get into all kinds of different things. Hiking, fishing, camping, bear viewing, ulu factories, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yes, shopping.
And if you don't know what an ulu is, you better stick around. We'll tell you.
Oh, yeah. What's up first, Chris?
What's up first? Let's talk about the Denali Road Lottery because that's something we tried to get and successfully once in all the years we lived there. And then what happened?
We ended up being out of state on a trip, so we were not able to go, and that was very heartbreaking.
So the Denali Road Lottery is pretty freaking awesome. When they're running it, and if you're lucky enough to actually get selected, you get to take your personal vehicle into Denali National Park and drive around on your own and not have to go through a tour guide or a tour service.
Yeah, so now you see why it was pretty heartbreaking that we didn't get to go.
Right? Yeah, it didn't work out real well. So right now, it says park operations are altered due to Pretty Rocks landslide. Pretty Rocks, Martha. Did you write that?
I must have Pretty Rocks.
Because we can't have no rocks that are ugly landsliding.
Oh, no.
It's ridiculous. But anyways, the summer access to the facilities and services in Denali remains altered due to Pretty Rocks landslide. So that means that mile 43 is closed. That's a long way in. Honestly, if you're going to drive in and out in a day, 86 miles round trip on that dirt road, pretty slow.
Yeah, it is.
That's like going across the Denali Highway in a day. It's a lot. It can be done. All right, but we're here to talk about the road lottery. So the road lottery is currently suspended for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, so definitely check back on their webpage to see when it reopens.
So that webpage would be the National Park Service, nps.gov, and then you're looking for Denali, Denali. And if the road lottery is open, you're going to want to look probably a year in advance of whenever you're planning on getting to Alaska to see if it's open, and then it'll have the dates on there. Like I said, all the years we put in for it, and it was like one of those things annually we put in for. We only got it once, so hopefully the odds are in your favor.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
All right. So does that mean you still can't go to Denali National Park, though?
Does it?
No.
Is that open?
It's open.
Okay.
The park's open. You're not going to be able to drive around, so I would say if you're going to do that, go on to, I don't know, TripAdvisor, Viator, or any of the other scams that are overcharging everybody. And by the way, not sponsored. Actually, I would tell them to go to Groupon, wouldn't we?
Yeah, Groupon's pretty been solid for us. So
yeah, Denali National Park is worth seeing. I would put that on your to-do list, especially if you're going to be driving up to Fairbanks or down to Anchorage, depending on which way you go.
Yeah.
You're going to drive right by the darn thing. Our recommendation, go up Cantwell, come back Paxton, or go up Paxton and come back Cantwell. I know that'll make sense when you look at a map, but basically left side of the state, right side of the state, or east and west.
Yep.
Martha's like Starbucks over here or Starbucks over there.
Hey, bring your own Starbucks.
Yeah, that's true, because there's nothing in Denali.
No.
All right, so let's talk about Department of Fish and Game.
All right. So who likes to go fishing?
I do.
Who likes to go hunting?
I do.
I do too.
I like critters.
I do too.
All right, here we go. Had to get the results up here. So if you're going to plan on going hunting in Alaska and or fishing, you got to have a license. You got to have a license for hunting. You got to have a license for fishing. Sometimes you have to have specialty cards as well. So like for salmon, you have to have a specialty card, or steelhead, or I don't know, halibut, things of that nature. So let's talk about the money side. Are you pulling that up for him?
I'm pulling that up, the licenses. And so you need a license and or a permit to go hunting and fishing.
And depending on what type of game you're actually going to go after, you may require a guide. I know that grizzly bear for non-residents requires a guide. Why? They don't want you getting eaten by boo-boo. Right? I mean, let's be real.
Correct.
Grizzlies are ginormous creatures
They
and
are.
inherently not aggressive, but if you make mistakes, they can be very, very deadly. I guess very and deadly would be kind of a... Yeah, never mind. They're
Or
deadly.
worse.
Yeah, you could die or worse. And just know you're going to want to have a hunter safety course, whether it's your home state or in Alaska, to make sure that you meet the requirements of actually hunting in Alaska. I want to talk about the draw hunts while you're over there searching the interwebs. The draw hunts are lottery-based hunts or lottery-based fishing. Can be either or. You have to put those in advance, usually the fall before the year you want to hunt. So if you're coming in June of 2025, October, I think it's September. No, I'm off a month. November to December, you put in for your hunt. So if you want a specialty hunt, you want to hunt elk in Raspberry Island, or you want to hunt grizzlies on Kodiak, then you have to do that. You have to put in for a draw hunt to be selected. You can hunt Dall sheep. There's so many interesting things that are local to South Central Alaska, which would be kind of the Anchorage area, we'll call it that. But they require specialty permits because the population is so high there, they don't allow everybody just to go hunt. So maybe they only give away 25 attempts per year. So if you're going to put in for that, make sure you get online with the ADFG. So Alaska Department of Fish and Game, adfg.alaska.gov. Well in advance, figure out what you want to do, figure out what the costs are going to be and what your time frame is. But just know, generally speaking, everything's November to December. The draw hunts, we were successful in getting a few tags.
Mm-hmm.
The percentages are posted online. Most of the time, it's like 1% to 6%. So don't plan your whole vacation around getting drawn for a specific hunt.
Yeah. Okay. So I have the non-resident fishing and hunting license price up here. They sell 1 day, 3 days, 7 day, 14 day, and annual.
Yep.
So 1 day, $15, 3 day, $30, a week, $45, and 14 days, $75. They have an annual sport fishing license, $100. And then they have hunting and sport fishing.
Combo.
So it gets expensive. And then you're going to have to, if you want to hunt, catch king salmon, you're going to have to add a stamp on top of that. So 1 day, $15, non-resident, 3 day, $30, 7 day, $45, 14 day, $75. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. 7 day, $45, 14 days, $75, and then annual $100. So it's like double your license.
Yeah, what my dad would always do, because he was a California resident when we were living in Alaska, and he would come up every year. We would anticipate that it would usually cost about $500 for a license, because he would come for 2 to 3 weeks. It just made more sense to do an annual. So you do an annual hunting, annual fishing, annual king, and then other specialty permits. So we just planned $500, and that was what it was. It'll be different for you, maybe depending on what you want to do. Just know that nothing about going to Alaska is a bargain trip. There is ways that we will talk about that can save you money. We've already started. I got itchy nose. That's rude. We've already started to hint on that a little bit with Groupon, which we'll go a little deeper on that.
And then they do have military discounted fishing licenses,
yeah.
But you have to be active duty and stationed in Alaska. So right. I won't go into those prices, but if you're stationed in Alaska and you're military active duty, they got you. You're
probably not listening to this. That's probably the case.
Probably not.
Let's talk about, since we're on the fishing kick, let's talk about Homer.
Okay.
One of the places that, actually, no, we're skipping around a little too much. We have an outline. I should follow it. Otherwise, I'll miss things, and then it'll be bad. So we've talked about fishing license. Let's talk about where. So fishing areas. Let's talk about Anchorage first.
Ooh.
Our favorite mud hole.
Ship Creek.
That's ship with a P, not with a T.
Although it looks like the one with the T because it gets super muddy and murky there.
It is tidal influence, comes in from Cook Inlet. It is a muddy mess. And one of my favorite fisheries, honestly, because you can be in downtown Anchorage in the rail yard in the middle of commercial everything and catch 30 and 40 pound salmon. Mind blowing. It's
so much fun. And they have a little tourist thing called the Bait Shack, and you can get obviously bait there.
Yep.
But they have a little scale where you can weigh your fish. It is encouraged, and to take a picture and tag them. It's a lot of fun just to see yourself on social media with your fish so you can show everyone back home.
Are you saying man math is not allowed when it comes to salmon?
No, because we all want to know.
What's the real size of that fish?
what in the weight too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the secret to showing and make your fish look really big?
Holding your fish closer to the camera, away from you.
That's right. It's huge. Even if it's that big.
We've too many photo shoots.
Right. So the Bait Shack is a great place. They have an online website. Again, not sponsored. We don't have anything to do with them, but they have fishing tournaments that they do. The first king salmon caught of the year. They have a salmon derby that they do in June. They do silvers in July and August. So if you're interested in winning some money and you're fishing those areas, buy the raffle ticket. It helps support the local economy. And if you happen to catch the big fish, you can actually win thousands of dollars. It's a really big deal.
On top of that, I mean, summer months, it's gorgeous there. It's a lot of fun. And you, like Chris said, support the local community.
Yep.
But parking is limited.
Oh yeah, but there's enough to get around. But you might have to walk a little bit.
Yes.
So ship with a P, not with a T.
Mm-hmm.
Jim's Creek. Let's talk about Jim's Creek. We loved going out there because we also call that Knik Glacier.
Yeah. So we used to take our 4-wheelers out there. We had a side-by-side and a 4-wheeler. So we'd go out with a group of friends all the time, every weekend for like years.
If you're adventurous, there is guided tours that will take you out in Jim's Creek recreational area out to the Knik Glacier, and you can basically borrow or rent their 4-wheelers and side-by-sides, and they will guide you out there. It is a worthwhile trip if you like adventure. It'll be a full day trip, but you will literally get to drive, walk, and be on a glacier right outside of Anchorage, about 40 minutes away. The best part is you get to spend a whole day on a 4-wheeler.
Yeah, we've always had a blast going out there, and we used to take our daughter out there all the time. It was a lot of fun because we'd go out on the glacier, we'd have little bonfires, cook our lunch, and then just make a day of it.
Yeah, and there's good fish in there, kings and silver. So it's somewhere you can go ATVing, you can go glacier hopping, and you can go fishing all in the same thing. One of my favorite places that Martha's kind of meh about is Willow Creek, and I'll let you explain the meh.
I'm not about the catch and release. So
There's something in your DNA.
I'm Alaskan Native Indian, so I hunt for food. I fish for food. So I have a hard time letting that fish go, but something about laws and rules and everything.
Right. So Willow was getting overfished for years, and the harvest was so good that people were starting to really decimate the population of the fish. So what they did is they put regulations in place that allowed people to fish it for sport fishing but not keep the fish. Because of that, the amount of people that fish the area has dramatically dropped. I mean, we have pictures way back when we were first fishing there where it was elbow to elbow. And when I say that, I mean, we're talking like touching elbow to elbow with every single person catching fish. It is incredible fishery. Well, now you might go out there and there'll be 3 or 4 people, but the fish have returned. And the biggest salmon that we've ever caught on rod and reel came out of Willow. It is worth doing. It's up in the Wasilla Valley area. It's a little bit of a drive. I'd say it's about an hour and 20 minutes outside of Anchorage. But if you're looking for a peaceful, quiet way to catch a lot of massive king salmon, go to Willow.
It's absolutely gorgeous out there and peaceful. Like Chris said, there's not a whole lot of people that go out there now just because, to release. Right. And because a lot of the places you can just catch and keep. But yeah.
And let's face it, there's rivers on every corner in Alaska, it seems like. And they're full of fish. So... some of these insider tips to get you areas if you just want to experience fishing kind of more peaceful.
Yeah, and just a little friendly tip, keep an eye on the rules and regulations. Chris will tell you what website. And the reason why is that certain areas may limit you to what fish and how many.
And when. Willow has always been a weekend-only fishery. So that means Saturday morning for the military folks, 0001 or 1 minute after midnight Friday night, fishery opens. In the summer, it's still daylight. So we would line up at 10 o'clock Friday night, 10 p.m., to start fishing at midnight 01 Saturday morning. Most of the time, we were done by about 1:15 in the morning with our fish and driving back to Anchorage. So if that is still the same, it's a Saturday, Sunday only fishery. So just keep in mind, you have to really be careful in Alaska. They regulate their fishery. They are extremely serious about it. The Department of Fish and Game in the state troopers, the wildlife troopers, they don't play. They will arrest you. They will confiscate your stuff.
And here's how you identify what they look like. It could be the person fishing right next to you because they're going to be in regular gear. You just never know.
They will be fishing, truly fishing next to you, and it's a wildlife trooper. They just want to make sure everybody's doing the right things and following the regulations. And when they don't, we've seen several instances where they're like, come here. And next thing you know, your fishing gear is getting confiscated and you're getting a nice fat ticket and being cited and released.
See, and that's never happened to us because
No.
we take our fishing and our hunting very seriously. I appreciate what they do for the state because they allow us to have food every year.
Yeah. So just know, nothing to be scared of. Just
No.
read the regulations. It's ADFG, so Alaska Department of Fish and Game .alaska.gov. So ADFG.alaska.gov. Everything's on there: hunting, fishing, licenses, anything you'd ever want to know.
Now, this next place, we fished there so many times. It's one of our favorite places, the Russian River for reds.
Oh, heck yes. So that's a tributary off of the Kenai River, and it's down in, I want to say Sterling, but it's not. It's like heading towards Soldotna. There's a little bitty town down there, and you cannot miss the Russian River because there will be a line of cars 300 deep heading there.
Yes.
It's one of the smallest rivers that we ever fished that will get 3,000 fish a day coming up it, and it is just amazing. And sometimes the runs are bigger than that. You can have 10,000 fish days.
So one of my favorite pictures, not going to be able to find it this time because we're not at our home base, but there's a picture from years ago when our daughter was like one, no, not even one. I'm nursing her on the side of the river. And of course I have my little blanket over her, but my free hand is helping Chris wring his sweatshirt out because he had just landed a huge fish.
And fell in the river.
But he got the fish.
And local news caught it and put us in the newspaper and took pictures of me soaking wet, Martha nursing, wringing out it, and then did an article about us. So it's pretty cool.
It's Alaska life.
That is Alaska life.
We
That's
wrung
real.
his sweatshirt out and he went back out and caught his limit.
Hey, gotta catch fish. Water's water. You'll be all right.
Once he catches his, then I'd hand over the baby and I'd catch my limit.
Yep. And just know the the reds, or the reds is what we would always call them. The red salmon, usually 3 to 5 is the limit. 3 to 5 fish, depends on the year, what's going on. Again, that's another one of
and
those
they
things.
let you know too. So
Yeah.
Trust me, it's in the news.
Yeah, there's no secret about that.
Now, where's my favorite reds from?
Oh, your favorite reds are from, oh goodness, why am I going blank on the river? You gonna put me on the spot? Say it, I'm going blank.
The Copper.
I'm just gonna stare at this and make it awkward on her.
The Copper River Reds.
Thank you. Copper River Reds, yes. Now, Copper River Reds cannot be caught with hook and line.
Nope.
How do you do it?
With a net.
Dip netting. That is a resident only thing, so we're not going to get into dip netting. Just know you can watch, but you cannot play. But the Copper River Reds are really good. There is areas off of the Copper River that you can fish. Some of the tributaries, I'd recommend doing it. They have it's just a different fat or oil or something, but they're bigger and they're delicious.
So I'm going to stick a picture up there. So Chris and I, for our 19th wedding anniversary, so in 2019, we went and did a charter for dip netting.
It was awesome.
On the Copper River.
2 50-pound salmon.
Yes.
Kings. Yeah,
we got our kings, and then we got our limit of fish, and we used to have a chest freezer in our Alaska house, one dedicated for salmon or all kinds of fish, and the other one for moose and caribou.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So the other one, this last place that we're going to talk about, actually it's not the last because I want to talk about Homer, but Hope.
Pinks,
humpies.
Hope, Alaska is where we would fish for pinks or humpies, and they would come in from the ocean and they'd still have their sea lice. Those ones are still good to eat. Some of the other ones, not so much, that have been there for a little bit. They look like they're zombie fish.
Yeah, but they're a blast to catch.
Oh, yeah.
They are a lot of fun. You can go out there with like a lightweight trout rod and catch 3 to 5 pound pinks all day long. And I mean all day long, as many as you can imagine.
What Chris and I would do, we would keep pinks, whatever our limit could be, and we would donate it to the Alaska Zoo. Mm-hmm. They have a chest freezer outside, so you can go to the Alaska Zoo's webpage and see what they take for donations, and they always take salmon, but it cannot be like, seasoned or
Right. Or cooked or anything.
Cooked,
It's just
yeah.
got to be natural raw fish, but they
Mhm.
are all about taking wildlife. And they do the same thing for the hunting.
Yeah.
We would bring caribou carcasses, moose carcasses. They were happy to have it because, let's face it, wolves, grizzlies, that's all natural food for them.
Yeah, and it allows them to keep with how they're supposed to be if they were in the wild.
Yeah. So if you want to go to Hope, it's a neat little town. It's kind of a crazy, I'm going to give you a visual here. Martha, help me. So Anchorage would be this finger. Hope will be this finger. The distance from here to here is like really, really short, couple miles. But you have to drive all the way the hell around to get to Hope, but it's worth it.
It is. So definitely pack a lunch because there's not much out there on the road.
There's a few restaurants and some small shops. Spend money in the locals. Take care of the local
absolutely.
businesses. Small businesses thrive off tourism. So that's why when we say if you're going to Alaska, just plan on spending some money. It's not a budget trip.
No.
Go enjoy yourself. It's a lot of times a trip of a lifetime for people. You want to make sure you do it. So let's talk about Seward. Seward's an interesting one.
Yes. So in Seward, you can do snagging during certain times of year, and they tell you how you can snag what kind of at the end of your line.
What kind of hooks you can use. Yeah, so you use a treble hook, big 3-prong hook with lead in the middle of it, and you cast it out and you yank like hell, and you literally hook fish wherever.
Now, here's a question for you. Can non-residents snag?
I don't remember. We'll have to look that up.
You have that in here in the notes.
Yeah, I think I don't know. You look that up. I'm going to keep going because I want to talk about Homer because we didn't have that on that list. So just Google that and see what the Googly comes up with. Homer is another place that I would highly recommend you go down and fish. That's where the barn door halibut come from. The reason they call them barn doors, they're as big as a barn door. You know, you can get 300-pound halibut down there. It's also an amazingly beautiful area with a lot of cool tourism. They have the Homer Spit, which you can actually, why they call it a spit, maybe that's a technical term, but it goes out into the inlet and you can go halibut fishing and salmon fishing right off the spit, or you can take guides. The one thing that we briefly touched on was the tournaments or derbies. Homer has a massive halibut derby every year, and every year, without fail, somebody catches a winning fish that didn't have a ticket. And when those situations happen, guess what? You don't get anything. If you're going to be fishing any areas in Alaska while you're up there visiting, make sure you just spend the money, buy the tickets, the raffle tickets, because it can happen. You could actually win tens of thousands of dollars, especially in the Homer Derby. And you could catch the halibut of a lifetime. So definitely look for that. If you're going to be looking for fishing charters, go on to Groupon. We did talk about Groupon briefly. Groupon. It's legitimate. We've been using it for years. Groupon is awesome because you can get charters at anywhere between like 30 to 60% off of what they charge on TripAdvisor or Viator or any of those, as we call them, the touristy traps. Go to Groupon. That's where the locals go, and save some money. You get what you pay for, so don't try to find the cheapest 4-hour fishing charter because it's probably a party boat. Be careful on that, unless you want to go on a party boat. If you got 20 people with you, a party boat's the way to go. We would always do what they call a 6-pack, which is 6 people maximum, and that way you get more one-on-one with the guides and a higher likelihood of catching fish because they're only dedicated to 6 of you versus 40 or 50 of you if you're on a bigger party boat. So reservations for excursions, do it early, do it often, and do it now.
And go to Groupon.
Yeah, and do it in all seriousness because we've already talked about the draw. If you put in for a draw, you got to put in for November ahead of time for the hunting ones. If you're putting in for the road lottery, you got to put in way in advance. Now, there's other areas like Brooks Falls that people absolutely love going to. Brooks Falls is extremely popular because the salmon stack up right below the falls, and all the grizzlies just go in there and they feast. They get fat. Brooks Falls has a platform that you can take pictures and sightsee and watch the bears. Now, it's really, really popular in July, and you can find Brooks, Brooks, Falls, as it sounds, and on the National Park Service, same place as Denali. Keep in mind that there's lodges there that have lotteries to go. You can't just book and say, I'm going to go to the Brooks Lodge area or I'm going to go see Katmai. you have to put in for the lottery. Now, you can do day trips from Anchorage. There's flight seeing tours, all kinds of them around there that they will fly you over there and fly you back. So that's one of those things you can't drive to. But if you really want to see grizzlies in the wild, Brooks Falls is a good one. What do you got?
There's rabbit holes in here, so
You chasing squirrels?
I'm chasing squirrels, and there's like rules for things.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules. So definitely go on this page and read. There's a lot of tabs, so it kind of depends on what you're doing. And
yeah, and it's not easy to figure everything out. You have to do a little research, figure out what you want to do. And if we don't want to steer you wrong and try to be something we're not, we're pointing you in the right direction. So where's the best bear viewing in Alaska? Here's the answer. Katmai National Park, Lake Kark National Park, Redoubt Bay, McNeil River, and there's all kinds of air services like we mentioned. You can go to visit Anchorage, Alaska, or anchorage.net, and all that information's in there. You can literally put bear viewing, and this page I'm looking at will come up.
And don't forget the Alaska Zoo.
That's a guarantee sightseeing tour.
It is, and it's safe.
Yeah, that's true. Those bears aren't going to get you. But the bear viewing that we're talking about are all safe because they're on platforms. I mean, they're set up in a way that's not going to...
A really cool place Chris and I got to see bears from afar, Kodiak Island.
Oh, God, yes. Grizzlies are everywhere out there. If you ever get a chance to go to Kodiak, whether you take the ferry or fly down on Alaska Airlines, that's a worthwhile trip. Talk about the wildlife sanctuary south of Anchorage, the one down by the glacier. I'm going blank on the title there.
Let's see.
Alaska Wildlife
Conservation Center.
Yes, that is a drive of 40 minutes ish outside of Anchorage. Definitely worth going to see, because right past the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center, which you should go do a tour of that one because you get to see all of Alaska's wildlife, you can then go over to Portage Glacier, which is like 5 minutes down the road, and then you can actually go and see Portage Glacier.
Yeah, so you'll want to reserve your spot for up to 4 months in advance is what it says to go in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. So Anchorage's Lake Hood is where most of your flight seeing tours are going to go out of. Lake Hood is the busiest lake-based airport in the world. Kind of cool. And it's about within 100 miles, you can see damn near everything in Anchorage. One of the places that I would recommend if you're looking for fishing charters is go to alaska.org. And then literally they have Alaska fishing charters and day trips. So alaska.org. Stick with major websites that are either nonprofit or government-based when it comes to doing your research. Don't get me wrong, blogs can be really good, but you got to fact check it. Not because they're going to steer you wrong, but just because, unfortunately, things change constantly.
The Alaska Native Heritage Center shows all how the Alaska Natives lived back in the day. So it's really cool to see. You'll see Tlingit tribe. That's where I'm from. I'm a Tlingit Native Indian, and you'll get to see how my folks lived back in the day.
And then also Eskimos, which everybody thinks Alaskans are Eskimos. That's one tribe or one group, and you can see how they live. One of the coolest things of the Alaska Native Heritage Center for me as a non-Indian is seeing how each tribe lived differently. Some lived below ground, some lived above ground, and how they set it up based on what their weather situation was and what region of Alaska they lived in. The further north you get, the more they would go underground because the weather can be really harsh.
Yeah, so you'll want to get your tickets in advance. alaskanative.net is the website. You'll see like the summer hours are like 9 to 5. They'll have cultural dancing in there. There's a shop that you can shop in. They have some food there. So it's really cool, great experience to see how my people lived.
Yep. Speaking of your people, Ulu Factory.
Ulu Factory is in downtown Anchorage, and they have traditional knives that my people use to cook with and everything with, hunt, skin.
Yeah, it is the multi-purpose knife, and Ulu is spelled U-L-U.
So we have some from there. I have the one that we had in my family. It's at our home base, and our daughter uses it. So I had to buy one before we left just so I could have one with us on the road.
And know that there's different qualities. There's display junk, and then there's the real ones like Martha's talking about, which you can use to do darn near anything. I mean, they're amazing knives.
And when Chris says display junk, it's just meant to just sit there and look pretty. It's not functional. It won't stand up to the test of time.
Those are the ones you get at Walmart for like $12.
Yeah. Those ones make great gifts.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat because they're usually carved on the handle and they say Alaska, but don't try to cut anything up with them.
We recommend going to the Ulu factory. You can have something made for yourself, or they have some already pre-made. It's a really cool experience. You get to see them make them in shop.
We should talk about hiking around Anchorage.
One of our favorite hikes is Flat Top. So that one, it's a pretty decent hike. And then once you get to a certain area, you can go to the backside if you're more experienced. Chris and I have done that by ourselves. And then there's the front side where we've taken our daughter and like one of my friends and his little 2-year-old that Chris ended up putting in a backpack and carrying her up. When
you get up top, you can see sheep. There's an American flag up top, and then you can take pictures of yourself on top of the mountain looking back on Anchorage. It's a relatively safe hike. When I say relatively, I mean there's rocks you could fall, but nothing to be concerned about. Yeah, once you get to a certain area, they have like benches and stuff there. It's a great scenic area. On the backside, Chris and I, we found blueberries. Yeah, and they're good. Wild blueberries in Alaska are yummy. Mm-hmm. Be careful. They're a natural laxative, so don't eat too many. Yeah, we actually went hunting, and some of the people in the party group, a couple of them ate too many blueberries. Way too many. They became poo berries. Yeah, Chris and I were like, no, we're just going to eat our snackies that we have. So, yeah. What other hikes do we have? We don't necessarily want to get into it, but some of the precautions to think about from hiking around Alaska. There's a really easy one, Thunderbird Falls. It's just past Anchorage, past Peters Creek. Yep. And that one, at the end, there's like a nice little waterfall. Yeah, that's a really cool hike. And again, super flat, really, really easy. You could do that one in a wheelchair. We took Callie there when she was a puppy. Yeah. The hiking around Anchorage is really good. I would download something like All Trails and just use that. I mean, there's awesome maps on All Trails for hiking. From a precautionary standpoint, bear spray does work. Bear bells are good. The goal is to not sneak up on animals. That's why they wear bells. We joke there's locals that call them dinner bells. Now, this is a little squirrel moment. This is another reason why Chris and I decided to take the plunge, and we bought a travel trailer years ago. We went out camping, tent camping. We had a double wide cot tent, and we had my Nissan Armada, which is a large SUV, and we had our black lab with us, Duke. So we went out camping one night. We put Duke in the car overnight to let him sleep because we had the double wide cot tent. We're just a few feet away from it. It rained so hard that night. I mean, we were nice and dry, but when we woke up, there was bear paw prints all around our tent. Yeah, we got circled. We did. I mean, we lived to tell a tale. Yeah. If that didn't freak us out, then we packed up, went down the road because we got there a day early for our reservations in the campground. We set the tent up and we're getting ready to go out fishing, and we see a mama bear and a baby bear, and they heard us. They saw our dog. I put our dog in the SUV, and then Chris you did the air horn. Yeah, like a sports horn, the loud, you push the button. Those air horns are fantastic. Most of the time they spook the bears. Yeah, but this time mama bear and baby bear were like, oh, dinner's ready, and started walking towards us. Yeah. So we got in the SUV and took off. Yeah. So the goal, of course, if you do encounter a bear, slowly get away from them, give them their space, let them do their thing. Like I said, generally speaking, they're not super aggressive. Mamas and babies, whether it's moose or bear, will stomp a mud hole in your butt. So stay away from them if you're hiking. If you get in between a mama, whether it's a bear or a moose, and their baby, back out slowly and get the hell out of there, because mama moose is the meanest creature in the woods when her babies are between a human and her. Well, just like any animal. Including us. Mm-hmm. Mama bear. Right? Yeah, that's a very good, valid point. So planning your activities, I think you get the theme of this whole thing. Early, and figure out what you want to do, where you want to go, things you want to see. Because I promise you, if you get to Alaska in May and you push it all the way to the end of September, you're still not going to see everything. You're still not going to do everything. And you're still going to have items that you wish you had done. And you may not see the Northern Lights. Highly likely, because that's a winter thing. Yeah, it's definitely a winter thing. Another website I'd recommend, Anchorage.net.
So that one's Visit Anchorage, Alaska, and it has a trip planning resource on there too. I would pull up a whole bunch of different ones and just kind of write down on a list what you want to do, and then try to find good deals.
Yeah.
See what the rules and restrictions are for those.
And we'll throw this out there. If you have questions about your trip planning or your Alaska stuff, reach out to us. We're on every social media platform. Send us a message. And we're on YouTube as Venturesome Couple. So we're Venturesome Couple on every social media platform.
Yeah.
Or email us venturesomecouple@gmail.com, and we'll answer your questions. We'll help you. Obviously, none of this is sponsored by anybody. This is us living in Alaska for many years and doing the trip several times.
Yes. And best thing, take a little ferry, take a little glacier and wildlife tour.
Yeah. And again, plan way in advance. Summer in Alaska has over 1 million people. Winter in Alaska has like 350,000.
Yeah. And it's not just the tourists that thrive on the summer. I mean, locals too. I mean, because they get the cabin fever. And when we lived there for years, we waited until, when it got nice out, and we were just gone every weekend doing something fun.
And weekends usually got pushed till Friday night as soon as we get off work, and didn't come back, some cases, till Monday morning.
Well, sometimes we'd take off a day early to try to beat the crowd.
Yeah. I guess that's the point. Talk to them about, like, when you're planning these activities, when you get there and you're trying to drive down to Seward or you're driving down to Kenai.
So one thing Alaska is known for as well, too, summertime is construction season.
Yeah, there's 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Winter and construction.
Yeah, because during the winter, they can't fix the potholes. They can't widen the lane. They can't do all those. And drive safe, because it gets frustrating when traffic gets backed up no matter where you are at.
Yep.
But people have lost their lives because they got impatient, whether it's locals or tourists. It doesn't matter. It's like you lose your cool in traffic and you try to go around people.
Over a double yellow.
What Chris and I have done is that if we're going to drive a little slower, we're towing our RV as soon as we can safely pull over. We won't pull over in different areas where it's not safe to pull over, because we don't want to jeopardize our life or anyone else's.
And just know, everybody's going to the same place, whether it's the Russian, whether it's the Kenai, whether it's Seward, whether it's Homer. If the fish are in, that's where everybody's going.
Yep.
So it's going to be crazy traffic. So if you have to be at a charter for a 6 a.m. launch and you're an hour away normally, you better plan 2 or 3 hours or get there the day before.
Yeah, get there the day before and just...
We've done that several times. We've gone down to Soldotna. We were going to go take a charter fishing. We would get down to Soldotna a day ahead of time and stay in a hotel.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking mainly to RVers, so take your RV, get near your charter, stay there a night ahead of time so that your next day is way easier.
And taking a charter is so much fun. So I'm like, if you don't know how to fillet a fish, it's cool. They'll do it for most likely for a small little fee, and
or
then
they'll
definitely tip your tour guides. Tip all of them. Oh God,
yes. Because most of them make next to nothing and live off their tips.
But they enjoy what they're doing. But
yeah,
don't forget to tip the lady.
There you go. So I think we've reached a point where we've given them great ideas on planning, how to prep, how to plan ahead. What will be our next episode? It's going to be. You didn't have that up, did you?
No, because I was going to talk about.
Go for it. You got something to say? Go for it. I don't want to cut you off, darling.
So the Alaska Railroad. That's another thing people could do, is take the railroad up to Fairbanks and back.
Yep. My phone's ringing. Hold on.
So that's something Chris and I want to do next year when we go back up to Alaska, is go on the railroad.
That is a great way to see the state. Our parents have done it. My mom has done it. We haven't.
I know. It's so funny because, like, we did a lot of the other stuff. We fish, we hunt, and everything to kind of feed and provide for our family all year round. Is we fish during the summer months, and it fed us all throughout the year. But we didn't go on the train.
Nope, but we will.
Yeah, and
next time we go up there, we will.
Did you talk about Homer?
Yep. That was
and the Salty Dog Saloons there?
No, we didn't talk about Salty Dog. You can tell them that little tourist trap.
Yeah, there's a little tourist trap. It's pretty famous. It's called the Salty Dog Saloon in Homer.
It's the tiniest little dive bar in the world, and it is awesome. It's worth going in, having a drink, whatever that is. Could be a water or a Pepsi.
Buy your hoodie or T-shirt. I got
Put
my
$1 on the ceiling.
Yep. And there's Bear Creek Winery
Bear Creek Winery.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's
berry
delicious.
wines from Alaska. Really cool.
Oh, it's delicious. We've done that too.
Yeah, Homer's, like I said a little bit, Homer is a great destination. It's a very artistic community, a lot of neat things to see and do down there, lots of shopping.
Now, if you want to fly into a nice little place, I always recommend Juneau, Alaska.
Oh, God, yes.
If you know Juneau,
Then you know.
and that's where I'm from. So, of course, there's fishing, sightseeing, glacier tours, all that.
So, back to what's our next episode?
What is our next episode? Oh,
Come on, I see it in front of me. Where to stay.
yeah. Where to stay in Alaska. And we'll talk about different campgrounds, how to find dump stations, and where not to stay in your RV.
There you go.
Yikes.
Thank you for watching. If this is on YouTube, give us a thumbs up.
And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.
And if you're listening to this on any of the podcast platforms, thank you. Make sure you leave a comment. Keep the algorithms happy.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys listening and or watching.
And
Enjoy every moment.
there you go.